So I was on a AI related webinar just recently, and there were some really, really good questions. I have been doing the last several videos about the questions that were on that webinar. Lots surrounding how do I get prepared for an AI pilot? Where do I start? Someone said that they were sold AI that didn't exist. And then there was another one that was all around how do I train it? Which is a really, really good question. You do have to train these models. And so how do I go about doing that? It's a brand new space that we've really never had to do before within procurement. So how do I train it? How do I test it that to make sure that it's actually meeting my needs? And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So the main question that is surrounding the whole topic that we're talking about today, sorry, I'm sitting outside and this fly just decided that it was going to bother me. So what is different about AI pilots? We heard a lot, I've been hearing a lot from not only customers, but some of our AI native partners. And we're also seeing it in some of the early studies that people are getting stuck in pilots. And what seems to be happening is, well, there's a lot that's happening, but what I'm hearing from most people is that they're getting stuck in this training and testing phase. And it's very different for us. Like when you think about the old models, it was we're going to design it, we're going to build it, and then we're going to run some, at times, not so great test scripts, and then we're going to deploy it. That was basically how things worked around here. We weren't training the system to understand the complexities in our business. So how do we go about doing that? So let me talk a little bit about what we're calling the 5Ds. It's actually 6, but one of them is kind of underlining the others. So the 5 phases of an AI deployment should look something like this. You have a discovery phase, a design phase like you used to. Then you develop. So that could be what we would consider a build phase in the past, but it's more development because you are taking maybe data sets you have internally and feeding them in. Like there's a lot more than just flipping a switch for configuration. Then you have the demonstrate phase, which is what we're going to talk about here today. Demonstrate is all about how do I train it and how do I test it. And then delight is your deployment. And then the 6th D that underlines everything are your drivers. And that's your data and the change adoption work that you have to do. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, that's vastly different from what we're used to, particularly in that demonstrate phase. So what do we need to be looking at during the demonstration phase? And I will tell you, this is something that is new to everyone. So we're learning how to do this, but it's also critical to get this right. And there's a lot to think through when it comes to training and testing these new systems that we're not used to in the past. The first one is having high data quality for your testing. Now, people are like, Amanda, that's kind of silly. Of course we need data. Well, let's think about what we've done in the past. Okay. So what we've done in the past is we had really crappy data in a test system, if we're lucky. And that's what we tested on, right? Like, oh, we'll give you 4 suppliers, or we'll give you 5 item numbers, or we'll give you 3 requisitions that we've built. Like, that's not going to work, guys. Like, we need to make sure that we have very good data and a high quality data that represents, if in fact is not, like if it's not actual data, it needs to reflect your actual data. But I would highly encourage you to make sure that you're using as much actual data as you can. And per my previous videos on the topic, if you haven't watched it, go watch it on your data preparation processes and what you need to be considering, because it's hugely important to get this right. I will say, out of everything that is happening in the AI space, data is what's stopping these AI projects in their tracks. So no more are we going to be able to be like, oh, this is fictitious data. It was just our test data. No, like, not going to work. So if you are hearing from partners, consultants, your IT organization, because this is all new for everyone, make sure that you get the data right. Okay. And challenge it if you hear anything differently. Okay. Next thing, know what you're measuring. So we're also not great at this. Have your metrics up front. Like, what do you want your outcomes to be of this pilot program? What does success look like? Do we want a 30% reduction in cycle time? Do we want a reduction in the number of touches? How are you going to measure that? And I will tell you, you don't want more than 2 to 3, but you need to understand what is your criteria to move out of pilot into something else, and what is your criteria? How are you going to measure that it's been fully trained or not? Okay, it's not like the old times where you have test scripts. You have test scripts and you are trying to figure out or complete a test script, and it literally, a test script is go do this, did it pass or fail? That's not going to fly anymore. So we need to understand what's the criteria to pass the test. Okay, define that up front, and then you'll be much better off. All right. Ooh, this is one of my favorites. There is no more happy path. Okay, so this used to boggle my mind. Boggle my mind. Consultants would walk in the door and they're like, we are going to design to 80% of your process because the other 20 doesn't really matter. And I always used to think, well, frick, the 20% is what's painful, right? The 80% of what works well, I don't, like, that's easy. That's like the bottom of the barrel stuff. It's the 20% that's hard. And that's the 20% that people want help with. That's the 20% that goes wrong all the time and consumes us. So when you think about your AI pilot program, you need to be thinking about what happens when. Okay. And if a consultant, your IT department, anyone else comes in and says, we're going to design this to 80%, kick them out. Okay. Just flat out, like, don't even go there, because these AI systems are designed to help manage the entire process, right? And your process doesn't go happy path very often. And if it did, then I don't know, use other technology outside AI to do that. But this is something that you need to consider. What happens when you're walking through the process? What happens when? Always be asking yourself that question. The more of those questions you can ask, the more effectively you can train the model. Okay? The more effectively you can get the data that you need to be able to train it or test it. So please, from the bottom of my heart, I can get off the soapbox, I would, but don't be thinking happy path here. Be thinking about what happens when. Okay. Then the other one, and the last one that I'm going to share with you about how to make sure that you can proceed forward out of an AI pilot and what's different about it, is that you know your nuance. Okay. And it's not happy path like what happens when. Knowing your nuance is do I have different processes in different regions that I need to understand? Or do we want to move away from those? Or are they legal requirements that they're set up that way? You have regional, you have a lot of other considerations. Like, I had a client recently, actually they've been a long-term client, they're a fantastic client, that's very divisional, right? So each division has their own mini cultures, their own requirements, their own ways of operating, their own nuance because of the business that they're in. If you try to do a vanilla AI solution across all divisions in their case, it's going to be problematic, right? So knowing your nuance, it takes a little bit of time. You can start with what's common, but the nuances is what is going to get you there. Okay. So, and it's not just a nice to have. Sometimes it is indeed regulatory that you need to understand that nuance so that you can build it in and that you don't have any ethical concerns around what is being um, resulted as part of your AI application. Okay. So you need to know your nuance. And this is why this is difficult. And we have not, and all of these, we have not done an extremely awesome job at this, at least from what I've seen. I mean, we have pockets here and there, of course, but to be able to have high quality testing data, to identify how you're measuring success right out of the gate, and two to three of metrics, by the way, like what does it mean to be successful, to not design to happy path, and to know your nuance. Those are newish concepts to us. I think we've talked about it before. We just haven't been great at executing it. And so it's very critical that we become better at these skill sets so that we can move outside of AI pilots into AI deployments. Okay, so it's great that so many people are piloting these concepts, but if we don't move out of pilots successfully, then we're not going to get the investments in future AI functionality that is rolling out. So we have to build these muscles, and hopefully through having conversations like we're having today, you can start doing that, get the clarity that you need, the focus that you need, and get the job done. So Wonder Services is here to help, of course. If you need help building that muscle, we're more than happy to help out and help guide you. I call my team members Project Sherpas because they love making sure that we're buttoned up and that we get results for any investment that is going into procurement. So with that said, I am Amanda Prochaska. I'm the founder of Wonder Services. I love bringing this content to you because the more we all know, the faster and more effectively we can move. So with that said, hit the like button, hit subscribe so you never miss a moment with us. Have a great day.